Hello guys, you're welcome back to Dami Dimension channel. I am back with another video, and this video is one of the highly requested video of a trouser with a pocket and band and zipper fly and everything. I promise you guys, this is going to be one of the easiest and straightforward video you've ever seen of a trouser. So just grab yourself a popcorn, sit back and relax and enjoy watching this tutorial. And if you find it helpful, remember to leave me a thumbs up and make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Share the video with your sewing mates, and without further ado, let's jump right into the video. So as you can see, I already drew a vertical line which is going to serve as my starting point, and I also drew a horizontal line that is going to serve as my waist measurement. So my measurement is going to start from here this way. So now this is my waistline, like I said, so let me just write it so that you guys can keep that in mind. And from that waistline, I'm going to be drawing my waist to hip measurement. All right, so it is 8 inches in my case. For taller people, it could be 9 inches, or you can just measure yourself or whoever you're sewing for so you can get the accurate measurement. So I took the 8 inches like that and I drew an horizontal line. So that's my hip line. Okay, so again, I'm going to be going back to my waistline and take from my waist to my crotch measurement. And this is how to take a crotch measurement. If you don't know it, you can just sit on a hard surface and take from your waist to that hard surface. Whatever you have, just measure it like I just did. Mine is 9, so I took the 9 inches from my waistline downward and I drew a horizontal line, which is going to be my crotch line. So next we need to draw the tie line, and it's usually about 3 inches below the crotch line. So I'm just going to take 3 inches from my crotch line downward, and I'm going to also draw an horizontal line from there like this, and I'm just going to indicate that to be my tie line. And next thing, I am going to be taking my waist to knee measurement. So that's going to be my knee line. Okay. So in my case, it is 19. I went ahead and took the 19 both ways, and I'm also going to draw an horizontal line like that. And finally, I'm going to be drawing my waist to my ankle, which is now going to be the trouser length, also known as out seam measurement. So from my waist, I just went all the way down to my trouser length, and I'm going to connect a horizontal line as well. Okay, so now that's my ankle line. All right, and now it's time to start transferring the horizontal measurement. So I'm going to be starting from my hip line. My hip divided by 4 gives me 8.75, so I'm going to be adding 0.25 ease allowance to that to give me 9 inches, and I'm going to be marking the 9 inches on my hip line like so. And I'm also going to mark that same measurement on my waistline and also on the crotch line so that I can connect into a straight line. Okay, and once you're done connecting, now it's time to take the waist measurement. So you are starting from this line. You notice that I'm not starting from the line where I started my hip measurement from. So you are starting from this line, your waist measurement divided by 4. Okay, then I added 0.25 ease allowance, and I'm also going to add 1 inch for the dart. Okay, so you should mark that. I'm just going to take that again so you can understand properly. The waist measurement divided by 4. Okay, then 0.25 ease allowance. All right, then 1 inch dart allowance. That's it. Okay, so now I'm going to connect this point now to the point of my hip line like that. Okay, and once that is done, we need to get the crotch point, and in order to do that, you are going to measure whatever you have from this line to that line on your hip line. So basically the measurement we transferred the other time, measure whatever you have there and divide it by 4. So whatever you get, you are going to be placing it on your crotch line from that line outward like that. Okay, so from that point now we need to draw our crotch curve upward like that. And in order not to draw the curve too deep, you can just go to that corner and measure 2 inches outward, or if you know you're sure of yourself not to draw it too deep, then you can just eyeball it and draw it. But it is very important for you not to draw the curve too deep. All right, so next thing, I'm going to find the midpoint of here and here. All right, and that's just going to give me the center line. So find the midpoint, place your mark like that. So you are going to be drawing a straight line across that point. So in order to get the straight line perfectly, I'm just measuring what I have there and taking it all the way up and down. And I'm going to be drawing my straight line now. Okay, so this now is my center line, and that's going to enable me to shape my trouser leg properly. So now I'm going to be transferring my thigh measurement. So your round thigh measurement divided by 2, whatever that gives you, you are going to be taking it on both sides of that line. You can just fold your tape into 2 like this. For example, my thigh measurement divided by 2 gives me 9.5. Then I folded the 9.5 into 2 and I place where the fold is on that center line, so I can have my 9.5 on both sides, if that makes sense. All right, so now I'm going to do the same thing on my new line, my new measurement divided by 2. I fold my tape again and I place it on both sides. And you are going to repeat the same thing on your ankle as well. So ankle measurement divided by 2 again. Whatever you get, fold your tape wherever the tape folds, place it on your line, center line, and measure. So then I'm going to be connecting those points together to give me my final shape of the pant leg. It's actually very easy, but if you have any question, you can let me know in the comments and I will try to answer your questions as usual. All right, so once you're done connecting, you should have something like this. And now I'm going to be adding my hemming allowance of 2.5 inches. All right, and I'm going to draw an horizontal line on that point as well. And in order to connect this point, I'm not just going to connect it straight. I'm going to fold my paper this way and trace out the line from underneath. Because I have a tracing paper, that is why I'm able to fold and trace it out this way. If you are not using a tracing paper, you can fold it when you are cutting and fold and cut it together. And this is just to make sure that when you're hemming your pants, you don't fall short of fabric, because if you draw it straight, you are going to fall short of fabric. All right, so the next thing now is to create my dart. So on my center line, I'm coming down by 4 inches, and on that line again on my hip, I'm taking 1/2 inch on both sides, and I'm going to connect that to create my dart. All right, so now I'm just going to place a new pattern paper and duplicate this pattern for my back panel's sake, just before I add my seam allowance to the front panel. So you can just leave yours as dotted lines. I really recommend you leave it as dotted lines so you don't get confused when you are drafting your back panel. So now I'm done drafting that out, and I'm going to set it aside, and I'm now going to add my seam allowance of 1/2 inch all around my panel. So once I'm done doing that on my front panel, this is what I have. And now I'm going to be creating the zipper fly. In order to create the zipper fly, I'm going to be taking 2 inches from that inner line. This one, I'm going to be taking 2 inches outward like this. It should be 1.5 inch, but I already put that seam allowance I already drawn into consideration. So then I'm going to extend this line now. All right, so that I can connect my points together to stop at the hip line. Okay, so it's very simple. That's all about the zipper fly, actually. Really easy. So next thing, I'm going to be drafting my pocket. So on that inner line, I'm taking 2 inches as well for my pocket. Okay, then on my waistline, the inner one, I'm going to be coming down by 6 inches. So I'm just taking that 6 inches on that side as well, so that I can draw out the shape of my pocket opening. So I'm just, drawing it with freehand, and then I went ahead to smoothing it out with my curved ruler, and this is what I have. And then I'm going to be taking 1/2 inch seam allowance all around that pocket opening like this, and I'm going to connect those together as well, right? So now I'm just cutting out my front panel. Don't cut through your zipper fly. You don't really need to cut it. It's easier when you don't cut, okay? So this is what it looks like once I'm done cutting, and I'm going to be drafting my pocket pattern now. So I'm placing a piece of paper on my pocket, then I'm going to be tracing out this portion, from that dart area all the way like this to the crotch area. All right, so I'm just tracing it out like that. As you can see, if you're not using a tracing paper, you can place it underneath. Actually, it's still the same thing. So I'm tracing out that hip area all the way to the crotch line. You can see I'm stopping at the crotch line. All right, so I'm setting aside my panel, and I'm just going to smoothen this one out so I can have a perfect curve. And next thing, I am going to be, just kind of measure with my hand how deep I want my pocket to be. So once I'm done doing that, I'm just going to, dot it out and then curve it out that way. It's very simple. So then I cut out my shape, and that's going to be the pocket. So I need to draft the pocket facing as well, and now I can cut out this shape actually, so I can be able to trace out I don't need that part anymore. So you can just cut it out and place a new pattern paper and trace out the portion that I just cut out. And so like I said, you can place it underneath if you're not using a tracing paper. So that's what I'm just going to dramatize for you now to see. So I'm going to be tracing out that portion that I cut out, and also trace out a bit of the hip area, the waist area, that hip area as well. Just follow what I'm doing. It's very easy. It's very easy, as you can see. Okay, so now I'm just cutting that out. Okay, once you're done cutting it out, bring back the pocket that you cut and place this one on top of it, so that you can trace out the shape that you had earlier, so they can be the same. Actually, the down part has to be the same. Yeah, trace this part out. Yeah, that edge, trace it out, and then your pocket is ready. Very, 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 very simple thing. Okay, I'm too playful, sorry guys. So that's the pocket, and this is the pocket facing. So you can set your panel aside, and let me just show you the formation real quick. You see, I'm already filling my pocket. Okay, so now I'm back to the front panel that I duplicated earlier. I have, all those horizontal lines and the center line drawn out with my biro, so I'm just making it more prominent with the marker so you can see it more clearly. And now this is my waistline, and here is my hip line, my crotch line, my thigh line, the knee line, and the last one is the ankle line, just to make sure you're still on track with me. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is to find the midpoint of this portion, and it's about here. So then just mark that point and keep it in mind. We are going to be using it later. So the next thing I'm going to be doing now is to take 2 inches on my crotch line. So from this point, I'm taking 2 inches outward. And what I'm trying to do is to achieve the crotch for the back panel. Okay, so from that point I came down by ½ inch. So just come down by ½ inch on that point like so, and keep that point as well. We are going to be making use of that point soon as well. Okay, so now you are going to measure what you have from this point to this point. Okay, you remember this line, right? So where it touches the crotch line, you are going to measure whatever you have there. For me, I have 2½ inches, and you are going to be transferring those 2½ inches here directly on the point, on this point above it, directly like that. All right, so from this point now you are going to be connecting your crotch curve that way. Okay, so in order not to draft the curve too deep, I'm going to be taking 2 inches from that corner outward like this. Just like we did for the front panel, you can eyeball it if you know you are not going to go too deep, if you don't want to take that 2 inches. But just to be safe, that's why I took the 2 inches outward, and that now forms the curve of my crotch for the back panel. Okay, so now I'm going to be drafting the back waistline. So I'm measuring what I have for my front waistline, and I'm going to be transferring it in a slant way to form my back this way. Okay, so I'm taking my 8 inches for my waistline on a slant way to touch that waistline like that, and I'm going to be connecting that point together just like that. All right, and now you know this curve is the curve for my front panel. Now we need to draft the curve for the back panel. So in order to do that, I'm going to be taking 1 inch from my tie line. Okay, take 1 inch like that, and on the new line 1 inch. Okay, I'll take it on the new line on the other side as well, and on the ankle line I'm also going to take that 1 inch. And this 1 inch we are adding is going to be going with your seam allowance later, and it is meant to help the side seam fall in the right place. So now we are going to be joining those points together to form the back panel now. So I'm going to be joining in that way as I indicated. So here I'm just going to be following this kind of curve just like that. Right? And like I said, this 1 inch is going to be going with your seam allowance later. If you want your pant to be loose, then you may not need to, take it. Or if you want a fitted pant, then you are just going to slim fit it off. So this is what it looks like once I'm done shaping it. And the next thing I'm going to do now is to draft out my dart. And as you can see that this is the waistline of the front panel, which is straight, but the waistline of the back panel is not straight. So now I'm going to measure whatever I have from this point to this point to that center line. Okay, and I'm going to transfer it on my back waistline. I have 3½ inches, so I just transfer it, and then on this line again I will take that same 3½ inch so I can get a line that is parallel to this line. Okay, so you see I already drew out my line which is parallel to that line now. So I'm just using marker to make it clear for you to see, and on that line now, which is the center line of my back, I'm going to be taking 5 inches, which is going to be the length of my dart, and on that center line again I'm taking ½ inch on both sides. So I'm going to be joining that together to form the back dart. So the back dart needs to be parallel to that line. It's not going to be straight like the front one. Okay, so once that is done, I'm going to be taking ½ inch joining allowance all around the pattern. So this is what it looks like after taking the ½ inch joining allowance all around. And now I can go ahead and cut out the entire shape. All right, I hope you've thumbs up this video already. If you haven't, please give me a thumbs up. It's the encouragement that I need to keep making videos for you guys. Okay, so once that is done, I set it aside and I'm going to be drafting my belt. So the first thing that I did was to draw out an horizontal line, and on that horizontal line I placed my round waist measurement plus 0.25 ease allowance that I added on my pattern, plus another 2 inches for the belt overlap. Okay, and I'm just extending that line, and I'm taking my belt thickness to be 1½ inch This is my choice. You can make it 2 inches if you want a wider belt, but I want a slim one. So I'm just going to connect that line together now, and also going to close this end, also closing the other end as well. And I'm also going to be separating my overlap allowance, which is the 2 inches. And next I went ahead and took 1/2 inch joining allowance all around the pattern. You notice that I did not add any 1/2 inch joining allowance on this part. This is because I'm going to be cutting this part on fold, so no joining allowance is needed on that part. So next I'm going to be finding the midpoint of my waistline. So you see that I ignored the overlap. I only found the midpoint from here to here. Right, so I'm going to connect the midpoint, which I'm going to be notching later on my fabric. That's going to be the midpoint, you know, the center back and the center front. So I'm just placing a mark here just to remind me that I need to cut this part on fold when I'm cutting my fabric. And next I just went ahead and cut out the entire belt. Once you're done cutting that, that's basically it about this pattern tutorial. I hope it's been helpful and I hope you enjoyed watching it. Remember to leave me a thumbs up and comment if you have anything to say about this video. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I hope we are going to meet in my next video where I'm going to be showing you how I put the pattern together to form something beautiful. Alright guys, thank you so much for your support as always, and let's see you again in my next video. Bye bye.